travel, supply is not helping the situation, with OPEC set to ramp up production after its talks with Russia and other allies broke down. Here on the U.S. side, President Trump saying Friday the Energy Department would purchase large quantities of oil for the U.S. Strategic Reserve. Reuters reporting today that those purchases could begin in as early as 2 weeks. Kelly, Tyler, back to you.
All right, Eric, thank you. Oil is coming off its worst week since the financial crisis, and President Trump announced on Friday a purchasing plan for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But our next guest says that bailout is not enough. Joining me now is Mike Summers. He's president and CEO of the American Petroleum Institute. Mike, welcome. And first of all, how bad do you think this is going to be for oil and gas production in this country as prices continue to plunge?
Well, of course, this is a disaster for many shale producers in particular, and we're watching it very closely. And we want to make sure that the oil markets remain well supplied, of course. We're keeping an eye on all of our refineries. But this supply shock, particularly as a consequence of Saudi Arabia and Russia producing all they can produce, is really, really damaging to American oil markets.
Yeah, it's a double whammy. You have demand falling, and then you have supply increasing because of that dispute. So how much should we expect production to drop in the U.S., and what's that going to mean for big oil-producing regions like Houston, like Texas, like the Dakotas?
Well, I mean, to put this in context, API does a monthly statistical report. It's going to be released this Thursday. And in February, we saw U.S. refining throughput and exports set February monthly records. And U.S. crude production also sustained a record of 13 million barrels a day, which, again, is also a record. So as inventories went higher, it helped set the stage for these dramatic results when we saw this incredible surge that came online because of Saudi and Russia's pumping really to the brim. So actually what we're seeing in addition to that, and again, this report is going to be out Thursday, is that while we're starting to see downturns in demand of diesel and jet fuel, we've actually seen slight increases in demand for gasoline, which I think suggests that many people are driving instead of flying. So obviously that's going to go down as the demand concerns continue to increase.
That's a really interesting point about substitution. I want to ask you something wonky. I apologize if there's not, an answer at this moment, but we've seen the price of WTI and Brent narrow considerably. They're almost both trading about $30. They usually have a much wider spread. What does that mean or portend to you?
Well, importantly, we saw in February where the U.S. and international crude oil prices grew closer, but we're still about $5 a barrel higher for WTI. And with OPEC actions and further drops this past week, WTI is now at a premium to international Brent crude oil.
Wow. So does that put the U.S. producers in an even worse spot or better, or what do you make of that?
Well, look, I mean, U.S. producers are resilient. I think we're obviously continued to be concerned about their financial position. But this is an industry that continues to invest for the long term. They've made big financial decisions earlier. They've hedged a lot of their oil. So, look, this industry is going to continue to invest for the long term. And it's going to continue to sustain itself as a key driver of American economic performance.
Okay. Mike, thanks very much for joining us today. Mike Summers.
Great to be with you.
With API.
Restaurant stocks taking a hit as states move to ban dine-in eating and discourage large gatherings of more than 50 people. Let's check in with Kate Rogers for the details. Hi, Kate.
Hi there, Tyler. Cities and states across the country are taking steps to limit restaurant service, including California, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, all announcing this morning that bars and restaurants will move to takeout or delivery only. Challenger Gray and Christmas warns that there are nearly 5 million workers in this industry who stand to be affected by layoffs or reduced hours, a number that will surely rise as this outbreak grows. Meanwhile, businesses are also stepping in. Starbucks temporarily closing company-operated stores in high social gathering locations, including malls and campuses, and reducing hours or closing stores in places like Seattle and New York City with high clusters of COVID-19. Instead, the company is moving to a to-go model for customers. Workers will be paid if their store hours are reduced. Chipotle is offering free delivery through the end of March, shipping its food in tamper-evident bags. And Domino's, its CEO, reminding customers it has a contactless delivery option. That company also getting an upgrade today from Stevens on expectations for performance during this outbreak as consumers shift toward delivery and carryout. Guys, and we should note that right up until we went on the air, Domino's was the only restaurant stock that was still positive year to date. It just turned negative, but we will keep an eye on it.
All right, Kate, thank you very much. Kate Rogers. As Americans flock to grocery stores to stock up on staples, Kroger, Sprouts, other chains have seen a major bump in business. As you see there, the stock price is reflecting some of that bump as well. Grocery chains, however, under pressure to keep up with the massive surge in demand with people hoarding specific items. The president held a call yesterday with grocery executives, and my next guest was part of that conversation. Joining us now is Anthony Hucker. He's the CEO and president of Southeastern Grocers. Mr. Hucker, welcome. I know that was an off-the-record call, but how did it go and what did you talk about?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me back, Tyler, to you and Kelly. As you mentioned, it was an off-the-record call, but really the president wanted to listen to us as to what we really needed. And the message in the conversation that certainly I passed on and on behalf of our associates is that after hospitals, the emergency services and elderly care facilities, we had a strong request to keep the grocery stores open because obviously we're serving a very basic need.
So you operate largely in the southeastern part of the United States. Are you seeing a bump in sales, and what categories are driving that bump in sales if you're having one?
Yeah, so the short answer to your first question is, yeah, there is a bump in sales. It is category